Chapter 92. Tisha walked out of the lottery center with a check in hand and went straight to a taxi. Hey? So, young man. The driver was standing outside the car smoking. The navy blue car beside him looked out of place among the local mint green cars. Tisha didn't reply. He reached out, opened the car door and sat down. Shall we go back now? The driver asked. Yeah. Tisha nodded, but just to be on the safe side. This time, he chose to sit in the back of the car. All right. The driver threw the cigarette butt on the ground, stamped it out and got into the driver's seat. By the way, young man, don't you plan to have a look around in Jinan? I have an old buddy here, if you're not in a hurry. Not a hurry, Tisha said. Let's go. Oh. The driver nodded awkwardly. Tisha remembered that last time. He had wasted half a day in Jinan going to the bank to withdraw money and finally went home with a big bag of cash. He had originally intended to give Neon Ann a surprise, but this time he had to skip all these formalities. Now he had to rush home as soon as possible and take Neon Ann to an open area. Thinking of this, Koja took out his mobile phone and wanted to call Neon Ann, asking her to pack a few clothes in advance so that they could stay outside in the following days. He opened the address book, found the first contact, the person noted as A, and dialed the number directly. This note was specially written by Tisha for Neon Ann. Only the letter A could keep her phone number at the top of the address book all the time. After waiting for more than 10 seconds, there was still no one answering the phone on the other end. What's going on? Puzzled, in his impression, Neon Ann never left her phone unattended. Why wasn't she answering the phone now? Tisha hung up and dialed several more times, but still no one answered, which made him a little worried. He looked at the time on his phone. It was already 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Master, if we can get back to Qingdao before 7:30, I'll give you an extra 500 yuan for the fare. Tisha looked up and said to the driver. Really? The driver glanced at Tisha through the rear-view mirror and then looked at his watch. 3.5 hours. 350 kilometers. Although it was a bit of a stretch, it wasn't too difficult for an experienced driver. As long as he maintained a speed of 120 kilometers per hour on the highway all the way, he should be able to arrive just before 7:30. There were many opportunities to earn 2,500 yuan in a day. Obviously, the driver couldn't believe it. I'm not lying to you. Tisha nodded. Pay attention to safety and let's go. The driver vaguely guessed something in his mind. Who would choose to take a taxi to another city usually? Although taking a taxi was expensive, the only advantage was that, unlike trains and bullet trains, it didn't require real name ticket purchases. In other words, the man in front of him wanted to come to Jinan secretly, then didn't want anyone to find out. So all in all, he should really have won the lottery. Only when the winning amount was over 1 million yuan did one need to go to the provincial lottery center to claim the prize. Maybe the actual bonus was even more than 1 million yuan. Thinking of this, the driver shook his head helplessly. It was said that the odds of winning the lottery were even lower than being struck by lightning. It was really frustrating when comparing people. The man in front of him was not old, but had such good luck, while he himself was already middle-aged, but still doing manual labor. Tisha sat in the back row and, out of the corner of his eye, saw the complicated look on the driver's face in the driver's seat. He couldn't help but curl the corners of his mouth. Yeah, for ordinary people, having a lottery winner sitting right behind them, who wouldn't let their thoughts run wild. Too bad you're always the kind of person who has the heart but not the guts, Tisha thought to himself. The taxi driver in front of him was carefully selected by Tisha from among many drivers. At that time, several taxi drivers were waiting for business at the entrance of the hotel. This burly driver was scolded by a skinny colleague for cutting in line and was begging for mercy repeatedly. At that moment, Shaw saw through him. Obviously, everyone wanted to make money and no one was worse than the others. But he was so timid. Such a person would never kill and drop for money. The driver's expression fluctuated for a long time, but finally he sighed and drove with his eyes fixed straight ahead. Kaj also leaned back in the seat and dialed Uniane's number again, but still no one answered. In such a quiet environment, Kishore recalled the things that had happened in the land of the end. Everything was so real that it didn't seem like a dream at all. He reached out and touched his left shoulder. There was no sign of injury at all at this time, but he clearly remembered everything that happened. He remembered that Han Yimo, Yao Tian, and Tian, Officer Li, and Lao Al had all died there. He himself had clearly died too, but he had returned to his previous life. In that case, would those people also have returned to their own life? Perhaps all of this was just a strange prank. As the sky darkened, the lights on the highway guardrails slowly lit up. Although he had only been in that spooky place for 3 days, Tisha felt that it had been a long time since he had seen lights at night. The night lights that kept moving rapidly backward in his line of sight made him feel strangely at ease. It seemed that the driver really wanted to earn that 500 yuan. As soon as he got on the highway, he maintained the maximum speed limit all the way. He was just like everyone else in the world, always struggling for daily meals. Tisha secretly made up his mind that even if they were overtime in the end, he would still give the 500 yuan to the driver. The driver tried to strike up a conversation with Kaija several times, but gradually he also found that this young man was really not talkative, so he could only turn on the radio in the car, trying to make the atmosphere less awkward. You are now listening to 89.7 Traffic Radio. A slightly magnetic voice came out slowly. This seemed to be the channel that taxi drivers all like to listen to. It's 7 o'clock sharp in Beijing time. Let's take a look at the messages left by netizens on the online platform. After saying this, the host obviously froze for a moment. He didn't say the next sentence for nearly 10 seconds, which could definitely be regarded as a live broadcast accident. The driver said gloatingly. Young man, look at this. Are all the hosts nowadays buying their jobs with money? Tisha frowned slightly, feeling that things were not that simple. The psychological quality of live broadcast hosts was usually very strong. Even if most of the messages on the online platform were used, they would pick out the key information and broadcast it at the first time. But why hadn't he spoken for more than 10 seconds now? The messages on our online platform are a bit strange, the host said in a strange tone. The platform has received dozens of messages continuously, all saying that a strange crack has appeared above the Qingdao entrance and exit on the Qingyan Expressway. We will contact the traffic police as soon as possible to confirm whether this crack comes from a sign or other buildings. Please, passing vehicles, be careful and avoid it.